So if pursuing a music career has left you feeling burnt out, this is the video for you. What's up, guys? Brandon here from KDMR Music, and this is a video about burnout and specifically why we experience it as musicians and creative people and what we can do about it. And I think, of course, ever since the pandemic, there's been a huge focus on mental health, or at least there's been more of a focus on mental health than there ever has been before. But I don't know that we've applied it as much as maybe we should, right? We kind of came out of the whole hustle culture and the Gary V's and stuff like that was really super dominant in like 2017 to like 2020, really. And then the pandemic kind of forced us all to stop and slow things down a little bit. And now that the pandemic is basically over and, life has been resuming back to normal, companies are calling people to work back in the office. Traffic is crazy again on the streets, like all sorts of stuff, is trying to tell us that life is supposed to go back to normal. We have to kind of deal with what it means to go from where we were 2 years ago to try to move into where we're trying to go now. And I think the result of that, trying to sort of make up for lost time, trying to make strides that we weren't making before, trying to recover ground, has really made it so that we feel like we've got to hustle more than ever before. And I think what's a lot of what that's resulted in is musicians being burnt out, creatives being burnt out, small business owners being burnt out, like basically crumbling under the pressure. So I want to talk about why we feel burnt out and what you can do if that is you. So burnout is generally just the sort of feeling and kind of anxiety around performance that leads you to a point where it's like, you know what? I just can't. I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. I do not feel like doing another thing. And I think what causes it for musicians is, we're in the 24/7 news cycle. We are in the social media age. If you're not making a TikTok or Instagram reel, or if you're not on Facebook 4 times a day and all the different social media platforms, then you can feel like you're behind. And not even just that you're behind, but that everyone is so far ahead of you that it's not even worth trying or putting yourself out there. And to build a successful music career, you can't just be a musician. You've got to be a content creator of some sort. You've got to be an entertainer of some sort. You've got to be an influencer of some sort. You've got to be a brand strategist. Even just in making your own music pop, you got to put on a marketing hat. You got to put on an artist manager hat. You've got to put in a content creator's hat. You got to put on a strategist hat. And on top of all that, you've actually still got to be good at making music, or at least good at capitalizing on trends while they're still popular. And so all of that, coupled with the fact that most musicians are not full-time, most musicians have a full-time job they've got to worry about, or a part-time job they've got to worry about, or a family they've got to worry about. And even if they don't have any of those things, they still got to pay rent. They still got to live. And so with that comes this ridiculous pressure. Like, everything I do has to be the best thing I've ever done. Everything I do has to perform better than anything I've ever done, or it's all going to crash and burn. And so we're busier than ever before. We have more responsibilities than ever before. And there's more pressure put on us than ever before. Like, you got this performance anxiety, like, oh, my last Instagram post only got 13 likes, but the one before that got 52. I must have done something wrong. We put ourselves in this sort of constant state of evaluation, and it's really, really unhealthy. Another thing that can cause this burnout is, again, sort of not taking the time to breathe, because we're in this 24-hour news cycle. We're in this information age. We feel like if we're not posting 5 times a day on Instagram, then we're not doing our jobs effectively. If we're not always posting video from the studio, then we're not doing our jobs correctly. If we didn't send out 4 emails this week, we didn't do our jobs correctly. And so the more that we're seeing other people posting around us, the more that we're seeing people go viral and stuff like that, the more we feel like we got to do it. And we try to fill every single hour of the day with some sort of a task that's going to make our careers move further and faster. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with wanting to be productive, but productivity at all costs is really unproductive, especially if you're not taking breaks to give yourself sort of time mentally to recover from all the output. And then, another thing that we experience as a part of this burnout is beating yourself up, beating ourselves up during the creativity process. Like I said, when you're a musician, and especially if you're trying to make money with your music, then, you feel like everything's got to perform super well. And so what happens is it's not even just like when you post and after you post that you're evaluating, but it's while you're creating that you're evaluating. Like you'll start writing a song and you get halfway through the first verse, you ball it up, you throw it away. And it's this pressure, this anxiety that just keeps building unless you do something about it. So if any of what I just described feels like you, then here are a few tips that I think can help you overcome that burnout. Now, the first tip that I have is to try to remove the financial pressure. Like we all got into music because we love making music to a certain extent, right? It's fun. It's fulfilling. It's creatively fulfilling. And you kind of find like a zen in doing it. And that's awesome, right? But what happens a lot of time is as we try to make this hobby of music a career, then of course that means there's a pressure for it to perform financially. And there's this line that we have to walk between creativity and commerce, between doing something that you enjoy and doing something that's going to make you money. And ultimately that line gets blurred, or we spend too much time on one side or the other. When you are first trying to build a music career, it's like, look, like if this song doesn't get 1,000 likes, then, or 10,000 streams or whatever, then it's like, I'm not going to make any money. It's not going to be worth my time to do this thing. Or if you are like a newly full-time musician, that's even worse. It's different, right? Because if music is the only way you pay your bills, then that means every time you put out a song, it's gotta be the best thing you've ever done. Or you risk not making your rent, not buying groceries, not feeding yourself, right? And that's rough too. So wherever you can, I think one of the best ways to avoid burnout is to remove financial pressures from your music. So that could mean like taking up a side hustle. Maybe you DoorDash for a little bit, or you are an Uber driver for a little bit, or you work a part-time job. Like maybe music could pay your bills, but you want to like just have your insurance or something from a different job. Finding ways to take financial pressure off of your creativity, I think will unlock something in you. When you can make music for fun and not have to make music just for money or just to sustain yourself, then you find yourself in a much better position. And for me, it's a lot easier to create from like a clear space when I'm not worried about, hey, I got to get 4 sponsored videos done this month, or I got to get, 10,000 views on this next video. When I don't feel that way as a strategist and as a consultant, it's a lot easier for me to just kind of look through the comments, look through and say, okay, what are musicians struggling with today? As opposed to saying, all right, what's the biggest and best video that I can make? And so, yeah, try to remove some of the financial pressure and strain. And you can do that by being more intentional about your music and maybe placing it for like sync licensing opportunities and more opportunities that will create residual income or recurring income, recurring revenue. Or you can just decide to do something altogether that's like outside of music. Maybe if you're an audio engineer, if you've learned audio engineering skills, then hey, maybe you do podcast producing or production for a little bit, help other people get their stuff sounding good. It still lets you operate in a semi-creative space, but you're making money, and it's not like your latest single has to get 50 million streams in order for you to be financially stable. So take the financial pressure off. And once you've done that, really focus on fun. Try to make creativity fun again for you. Like I said, when you first started this, you were doing it because you enjoyed it. You loved hearing yourself on record. You loved coming up with new melodies, new rhymes, new metaphors. Keep doing that. Try to find ways to make music fun. When music doesn't have to be your moneymaker, it can still be fun for you. Another thing you can do is learn something new. So if you are a singer-songwriter, maybe learning an instrument can take your creativity to the next level, and it can sort of unlock that stagnant feeling that you felt like you've been searching for beats on BeatStars or looking for producers to work with, and nothing really feels inspiring to you. Nothing's like helping you get out of that creative rut. Learning something as simple as like the ukulele can help you in starting to get your ideas out, and just that helps you with like just hearing sounds go from your head into real life. So learn an instrument, learn a new skill. Like I said, if you are a rapper, then maybe you can learn to record yourself, to engineer yourself, right? And that means you don't have to spend money on studio time. But when you're feeling burnt out, a lot of times doing something new or different creatively can really help. And I guess this will be a great time for a plug of Skillshare. They're not sponsoring this video, but go to Skillshare, learn a new skill, take a new course, maybe learn how to draw. It'll help you do your album covers. Like, there's plenty of things you can learn that will help get your creative juices flowing, even when the music isn't coming to you as easily as it did in the past. And, you know, if all of that fails, then I think one of the last options that you can take is simply to walk away. I promise the world is not going to end if you don't post for 3 months. It's just not. Like, it's going to feel like people are making leaps and bounds ahead of you. It's going to feel like that one guy in your city that you are competing against for followers and streams and stuff. Yeah, if they keep posting, they're going to keep growing. And if you stop, you might stop growing for a little while. But it's okay. That fan base isn't necessarily your fan base. And if you are just putting out creatively bankrupt ideas, do you really want the fans that are going to come from that anyway? It's totally okay to just take a break, stop, and say, you know what? I'll come back to this when I have something better to offer. Now, if you've been nurturing a relationship with your fans like I teach you to, then you can send out an email and just let them know, hey, I'm going to go dark on socials for a little bit. And you can also make like a post, like, you know, do your little notes apology, put it on your Instagram, like, hey guys, I need to take a mental health break. And your real fans will understand. Yes, it is going to take like, you know, something to really kind of get them back in once you decide to return from this hiatus. And I actually did a video about returning from a hiatus. But just wanted to tell you, like, it's not the end of the world if you take a break. And sometimes you need to walk away, to refocus, to bring back a fresh perspective. So if all else fails, do that. Don't feel like it's the end of the world. Don't feel like that means you're giving up on yourself or your music career. And when you come back, hopefully you come back refreshed and better than ever. So these were my tips on dealing with burnout. I've dealt with it a lot as of late. Like I said, just being in this space where I'm trying to help musicians make money in their music careers, and COVID destroyed the live music industry. That's a whole different thing. And all of a sudden it felt like every video was like pulling teeth, or I felt like, okay, maybe this isn't as helpful as my last video, and so on. I was like, you know what? Let me just take a break and come back to it. And so I figured that would help you in your music career as well. If you got other questions, just let me know. I'll answer them in another video coming up real soon. But until then, be safe, be well, keep dreaming, and work hard to make those music business dreams your reality. Peace.